Hello and welcome back to the podcast. We have another super special episode today. So I welcome to the show Laura Coe, who wears many different hats, does many amazing things. But I had the honor of doing an Akashic Records reading with Laura about almost 2 years ago now, I think. Time flies by. So I'm super grateful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining. And with that, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself. And it would also be great if you could tell us the pronouns you go by.
I go by she, her, and thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. This is always a lot of fun. And yeah, as far as introduction, my name is Laura. I am an Akashic record reader and channel and author, and I run the Little Soul School. It's a school for the soul for people to learn and grow through a system called the Akashic Record, the energetic space that holds your soul's history, everything you've ever done in all your lifetimes. And so, yeah, that's what I do most of the time. Before that, I was an entrepreneur, built and sold a healthcare tech company.
Great, thanks. And so before I ask you more about how the Akashic Records found you, because I heard that story on a different podcast, which was fascinating. But so before we jump into that, can you tell us a little bit more about the Akashic Records for anyone listening who might not might not be familiar with the records?
Yeah. And so, I mean, stop me at any time or ask more. I could talk about this for hours or minutes, whatever, whatever works. But yeah, the Akashic Record is been around for a very long time, thousands of years. In the East, it comes from the idea of the five elements. The Akasha is Sanskrit for the sky, the ether, everything. In the West, we might think of the book of life in, the idea that your soul has this book of life. But the Akashic record, that term was introduced more recently. But basically, it's this idea that everything you've ever done in all of your lifetimes, because this is a belief that is based in multiple incarnations, is stored somewhere. And so the way I think of it as like your telephone these days, right? We know that our phone is the object with which the information that's in the cloud connects to, but the phone itself doesn't hold much information. Most of the information is out in this cloud. So similarly, every thought, feeling, action, everything you've ever done, everything is stored over all of your lifetimes in this energetic cloud we call the Akashic record. And Laura is the equivalent of the phone. So I am in this lifetime, everything I'm doing is being added to my soul's record. And an Akashic record reading is when we access that space through a query-based conversation. So the person asks a question and we consult the Akashic record to get answers that help us understand ourselves in totality, our soul, all of our lifetimes, so that we can move forward, get unstuck, and just answer all of life's big questions. It's pretty much a treasure trove of almost anything you want to know.
Awesome, thank you. And so, yeah, I've heard you talk about how the Akashic Records found you, and that was a fascinating story. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, of course. Well, I was a philosophy undergrad and graduate student. I mean, this is like my passion, and specifically this question of like what at our core makes us us, right? What's the changeable qualities and the unchangeable? And by that I mean like what's that feeling or that vibe you have about somebody, right? So if you known somebody over years, it's like there's a common thread, maybe. We might call it the authentic self, right? And so I was interested in that when I was in school. And then I wrote my first book and had a podcast, and it was all dedicated around this question of the authentic life. Like, what does it mean to live according to that, I don't know, that elusive space, right? And the more I got into it, the more I realized, what is this? What is it when we say me? What do we mean when we poke at our chest and talk about ourself, you know? And it's that unchanging, deeper sense of self, the one that we know is there, but we can't quite find in a sense. But when we're there, we know, right? Oh, I'm really connected to myself. Oh, this is true for myself. This is my actual belief. This is what I really do want. We talk like that versus this other self. People might call it the egoic self or the mind or whatever. That's maybe got other ideas of what we should be doing, how we should be living, who we are, and it doesn't feel quite right. And so I was deep in that process, and I don't know. I was looking for that next moment, like that deeper experience of what it meant. And I was also in the process of a 17-year relationship was coming to a close, and I was back out on the dating scene, which was a bit crazy in my late 40s. And went on a dating app. First person I met, although I went out on a bunch of other dates, was what some people might call my twin flame. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know what a twin flame was. I didn't really care. But we went out, and I think on our second or third date, we looked at each other, and I mean, back then I didn't know what it was, but now I would say our eyes met and our souls reconnected, and basically had an energetic explosion inside of myself. Like I just suddenly remembered things. I could write poetry, and I wrote this poem about her soul, which sort of shocked me and her. So we were hanging out a little bit, and she'd always wanted to try an Akashic record. She was curious what it was, but had learned about it 20 years earlier. For some reason, some reason, but had never gone to try it. And she thought, well, I just feel like I'm supposed to do this with you. So we wandered into this woman's space here in Chicago. There's this cool center. I didn't even Google it. I just went in cold. I like wellness stuff. And she asks for my name, like, tell her my name. She reads these sentences. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? And she just starts dropping truth bombs on me. Like, I was telling my friends, I want to live in a modern minimalist apartment on the lake. I don't know. I don't even know why I was saying it. I told like three friends. She's like, I see a modern minimalist apartment on the lake. I'm like, what is happening? And then she starts telling me stuff about my kid, books I want to write. And I'm not speaking. I mean, she's just this like flow of energy we've never met before. She's not looking at me. And all I can do is muster up like, do you have a pen? Like I just wanted to like take some notes because I'm like, my brain was blowing up. And so this went on for an hour. And yeah, I just it was telling me about this relationship I'm in, that we'd had 135 lives together, like, and this is meanwhile we've just slowly made this commitment to each other. It's a rather new experience, but everything felt resonant. That feeling when you read a book or a friend gives you advice or you're with a therapist, or I don't know, if you do psychedelics, something where you just go, oh my God, I just got it. I just had that moment, right? Where it like something clicked. It was like that experience for an hour. So yeah, that was my entry in.
It's an amazing story. And I think I heard the story on your first podcast, the podcast about authenticity. And at that point, I was kind of struggling to not find my purpose, but going for it and taking that leap of faith. And then about 2 years ago, I heard about the Akashic Records on your podcast. And I was lucky to schedule a reading with you. And I remember at that point, it was about me taking that leap of faith. And I remember so many of the things you said resonated so deeply. And it was just this experience of someone who doesn't know me telling me something that there's no way you could have known, and that I wasn't aware of, but that resonated so deeply.
Yeah.
And it was so fascinating to me. And at that point, I know I asked you a lot of questions about my purpose and what the next steps are. And I'm curious if you could talk more about how the Akashic records can help us finding those next steps towards our life's mission and purpose.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most commonly asked question. I'd say 90% of people say, am I in the right path? Am I in my purpose? And then after that, they check on relationships, right? And stuff like that. But it's really interesting because we've all got a similar belief, which is that our purpose is to do something in the 3D realm. And so people are really struggling to say, I know my purpose must be in the career space and it's got to be something connected to an outcome that has to do with my finances and career. But that's not true. And so the challenge we have is kind of breaking it to people that that's just not how the other side defines purpose. And so we all have one purpose, really, at the core of it, which is to evolve and grow and learn into the understanding that we are love itself, right? How we get there can, depending on your worldview, can, I mean, if you don't believe in multiple lifetimes, that's fine. This worldview, though, it's like however many lifetimes it takes. And you, on the other side, set up a soul plan. You decide as a cutie little soul. I don't know. Sometimes I just try to envision what that looks like. I'm just like this little energetic self with my energetic pen, I guess. I don't know, but you decide what you want to do and who you want to do it with and what you want to learn. And so you have your little soul classroom, your soul buddies, and you say, okay, you're going to be, the evil stepmother, and you're going to be the best friend that helps and saves me. And like, we're going to do this. It's like putting on a theater production, and you evolve, you incarnate, and you don't remember what you agreed to. And so your purpose is really fulfilling those contracts, those agreements, and what you really came here to learn. It could be forgiveness. It could be self-love. It could be doing something in your career, right? Being in service to the world. It's not necessarily true, though. And most of the time, it's not. And so, a lot of why we're here is to learn these deeper lessons about ourselves and how we show up in the world and what is blocking or um, like our relationship to forgiveness or something like that. And so, while the career is nice, there's nothing wrong with it. And it's not like don't have a career, why sometimes people feel like I'm not connecting as much as I want to. It may not be your soul's purpose, right? To work in that job. It might be something else. So the Akashic realm can tell you what your soul plan is, why you're here, what you came to do, where you are in that process, how to get unstuck, all that kind of stuff. And there's no judgment. There's no getting it wrong, which is definitely the best part. It comes through so lovingly and gracefully. It's like it picks you up exactly where you are with the kind of advice you need in that moment, right? So if you get a reading maybe February 1st and then you come back and 2 months later you get another reading, you may hear slightly different things because you're ready to hear it a little differently, right? So the deeper answer, though, to what the purpose is that we're here to be in truth in every moment, right? Like the real core philosophy is that connecting to ourselves and having the bravery to be heart-centrically able to speak and live in truth is the fastest way to the purpose. Because how do we get there to our purpose? We have to actuate, and we actuate by taking actions every day. And if they're aligned to what's in our deeper sense of self, we will get there quickest. So what's in the way, what's blocking us, blah, blah, blah. But then also, what are we really here to learn? And so it's kind of sad. You have to break it to people. It's like, I'm sorry, I know you want to hear about your flower shop, but I think I have to talk about how you're really here to repair your relationship karmically with your grandmother. It's like not what people want to hear.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, because when I did my Akashic Records reading with you, I remember coming in and I was like going to different astrologers, doing the Akashic Records reading, working with coaches, and I remember asking the specific question around, okay, what is like the next step? Should I get a coach? Should I do this? And I remember you said to me, you don't need someone else telling you what to do. Your one of the things you have to do in this life is cultivate trust in your own inner voice and intuition. And that resonated so strongly with me. And that is something I keep coming back to because I can see whether it's in romantic relationships, whether it's with career stuff. I have a tendency to ask various people about, okay, what is it? What is it I should be doing in this situation? And then eventually coming back to myself and my own intuition. And doing the reading and the work I've done ever since that reading, I'm realizing more and more I'm becoming more and more comfortable with asking myself instead of other people. And that was for me super empowering.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you in your work doing the readings that you see those kind of breakthroughs all the time, right?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I love the system. I was coaching for a long, long time. In general, my tendency is to always want to support and help and mentor. There's just nothing else like this, though. I mean, people's minds are blown. They're cathartically crying. They're completely like, oh my God, how do you know that? It's like there's this feeling a lot of times that you know something's a little off in your life and you're like kind of searching for it. And yes, books are wonderful, but there's a generic quality. This uses the vocabulary and the like nuance of what is true for you. There was this guy, I like became friends with him, but I loved this reading because he was a Texan. He's like a total Texan dude. And he was asking about his love life. And he's like, yeah, how come I haven't found anybody? And I was like, ah, okay, so for you, it's like barbecue sauce. You just want a girl that's like, you know how barbecue sauce has like two labels, like tangy and sweet or something, right? I'm like, you just want sexy and sweet. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm setting women back like thousands of years. I cannot believe this is leaving my mouth. But truly, it's like what he needed to hear in that moment, right? And there's no judgment, there's no like political stuff in the records. And he was like, yep, that is true. That is exactly what I want, right? Somebody else I'll do is a tech person, and I don't know that, but I'm talking in terms of solid state drives. And, I'm like, you know how solid state drives are a certain way, da 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 da. And the person's like, oh my God, that's what I do for a living. And it's so the metaphors and the vocabulary is precisely driven around what will resonate for you to hear the message that day in a way that, like you said about yourself, it's like it cuts through to some really deep space where you say, like, oh my God, yes, like that's it. I don't know why or even how to explain it, but I know that that was just truth. And it's amazing to watch. I mean, I'm in awe of it all the time. Every time I think I've just seen everything there is to see, I learn or see something more wild or more interesting. So, it's really, really beautiful, especially for somebody like myself who's like a philosophy nerd basically. So it's really exciting that way too.
And I'm curious, so in addition to the kind of like personal insights and wisdom that we can gain from the Akashic Records, is the Akashic Records, is that also something we can turn to help us understand societal transformations? And can we gain any wisdom that helps us understand the current moment we live in?
Yeah, I mean, I channel from the Akashic realm. I've written a whole series of books. I was asking, what is the nature of love, self-love, forgiveness? I walked through 12 different things. I do ask about, you can ask anything. I mean, you can ask about the world, you can ask about the energy, you can ask about dark energy and light energy, and you can ask about literally anything. It's easier to say like, what can you not do? And what you can't ask about is getting it right um, versus wrong. There's no judgment, and time is a little slippery. So the the right and wrong. Say somebody is just behaving in ways that are just, not great. Like we're all not fans of some people's behaviors, right? But the records won't say it that way. They'll share, well, in this past life, and they're filled with fear and they have these traumas. And so, yes, they are having a heavier experience and they have all this heartbreak, but they're never like they're wrong, right? Maybe you want to keep space, maybe you need to be careful, but it's never bad. Addictions, behavioral things, all the stuff that we kind of judge or we really look down upon, that just doesn't happen. So that's beautiful to receive information that's so complicated. This woman asked me once about her mother, and I was like, oh God, because the guides are they show things sometimes visually, and I saw this tub of a bathtub, and the person was getting in the shower, and the water's filling up, and it's because there's this just gnarly looking hair in the drain, and the advice was, sometimes when there's hair in the drain, don't take it out. It's not yours to clean. Put the stopper in, shower with water. And their analogy is about the mom. So the mom is the hair. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't say this about somebody's mother. Like, this is ridiculous. But the way it came through lacked judgment. It was just, this is the reality. She's like hair in the drain. It's not like these problems are not yours to solve. So leave it, take your shower, get out. And this girl was like, oh my God, that's what I needed to hear. But no judgment. The mom's not wrong. So it's really incredible that way. And then the other thing that you can't really ask is when. So people want to say, like, when am I going to meet my next partner? Or when will I get that promotion or the next job or find my passion or heal this issue? It's the highest probability towards an outcome, but we can't really say like Tuesday because time is super complicated. It's not really true that it's linear. So all things are happening in the now is truly what's even science and math are saying at this point. It's very hard for us to think about it that way because we're so trained into linear thinking. But if you want things to move faster, if you want that promotion, if you want to feel better, follow the advice, unlock what it is that's stuck. And it's sort of miraculous. Like, things can actually happen in minutes and days, right? So those are the two things. Everything else, yeah, you can ask away. And I spend hours and hours and hours exploring. It's an unbelievable space.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. And one question that just came to mind as you were talking was also how when we talk about our soul's mission and what we can learn from the Akashic records about that, I'm curious to hear more about your thoughts around how free will plays into all of this.
Oh, I don't know if you want to ask me that. I'm annoying
Okay.
everybody in my life with this one, but I will answer you because I love it. I say that jokingly. Okay, so the going theory is that we have free will. We, meaning as human beings. So Laura Coe is, so my soul decided on what it wanted in this lifetime, embodied into this physical form called Laura. Laura now supposedly has free will. That is the theory. I don't think it's really true, though. I think we have destiny that the soul has predetermined before it decided to embody through the physical form. And Laura's pretty locked in to this destiny point. So think of it this way. You decided before you came here, you're going to work on forgiveness with your mom. And you're a couple years into it and you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't stand it. And my mother sucks. Like, this is not working. I don't care. And Laura can maybe veer away and move to China or something. But there's this awful experience where life starts to get harder and heavier, right? And so we see this, we say, oh my God, that person's off their path. Their life is, quote, falling apart. So yes, you have free will, but free will does not mean I have choice, Laura. I have choice A to live my life one way and choice B to live my life another way. I'm moving to China. I'm never speaking to my mother again. When it's part of my soul's journey to heal this with my mom, the universe pretty much has a neutrality to it. And the neutrality is to keep us on our path. And it'll just kick your ass till you get back on point, which kind of sucks, right? So it's like, yes, you have free will, but in a way you don't, because you don't get the choice to say, no, I'm not doing that. It doesn't feel good anymore. Now, if mom quit, isn't doing it, isn't aligned past a point, you can get out of your soul plan, your contracts, things like that. And there is a way that you can move it, but not really based on free will. So there's this great quote in Marianne Williamson's book is free will is just delaying God's will. And I've really come around to like, I mean, just in my own personal experience, I've found this to be true. You can yell and scream and have temper tantrums. Lately, for anybody out there that's got like a family member or a kid or somebody who's really committed to something, and you want to help them get to their goal, I think about it this way. Like, say you're 5 and you're like, I want to be an Olympic athlete, and your very loving, not pushy mother wants to support you. Now you're 13 and you're having temper tantrums for an entire month. I don't want to do this anymore. But in fact, you kind of do want to do it. You're just hitting that rough spot, right? So a good mom would kind of do anything to keep you, like, maybe you need a vacation. Maybe you need to take a little break. Maybe you need to push harder. Maybe, I don't know, right? Like, they might lie to you and tell you some things that, I mean, sometimes the guides even go as far as to like have micro lies to keep you on the path. It's crazy. But because they know that this is what you truly wanted on a soul level. So it's such a tricky topic. A lot of people disagree with me, like to some degree. They think there is more free will. I just haven't experienced that. And when I push them and say, when you mean free will, what do you mean? Yes, I can make other choices, but do I get re routed back? They're like, yeah, that is true, right? So yes, you can take the straight line to destiny, or you can take the really, really winding, exhausting road. But I don't really believe that there's free will in the biggest sense of the word, that you can just, hey, here's 15 things I want with my life. I'm going to get a free pass no matter what I want to do. And I get happiness in anything I choose. So I then went into this crisis of consciousness around, well, what the fuck am I just I hope swearing's okay. Am I just a puppet to my soul? I didn't like that, right? I don't want to feel like I'm not able to live my own life. But in reality, like, happiness, having cocktails, being with friends, like, that's a nice thing, pleasure points. But true contentment, fulfillment, joy comes from when we're connected to the deepest parts of ourself, right? When we're true to ourself. And when we say that and we say, I'm true to myself and I'm touching my chest, we mean the soul self, right? We don't mean our egoic self. And so actually the best way for Laura to feel happiest in the sense of contentment, not in pleasure, is when I am really deeply listening and aligning to my soul path. So that's my view. It's probably more than you wanted to hear.
No, this is super interesting because you talked about people's lives falling apart, and that reminds me of two different things. First of all, Oprah talking about those whispers in our soul, kind of trying to steer us along, and if we don't listen, they become louder and louder. And I've seen it in my life, in several of my friends' lives. And just as an example, in my life, in my early 30s, I was in a research career. I had that small voice saying, you should write a book. And throughout the years, I always was like, one day I want to write a book about my experience. And I was like, I gotta stick it out with this research job. This is what I'm committed to. And it just didn't, I did well at my job. It paid the bills, but there was like this deep feeling of dissatisfaction, and my soul like kept telling me this is not the path, and I didn't want to listen. And at some point I came to a point where I was like, okay, if I don't kind of jump off now and jump into exploring my purpose and what it is I really should be doing, I feel like I might actually, like, this might make me ill, because I, yeah, just
And
this
that's what I'm
feeling in,
talking about. Like just hear like, and I think people know your story, right? People have lived this and it's like it's gonna make me ill. So Laura, like Andrea doesn't really get to just make that decision to stay with that job. She's going to start to break down and that's a very complex thing to think about, right? In terms of free will. Yeah.
yeah, it's complex because obviously in the world, in the reality we live in, we have to worry about bills and money. But I just see it from my own example and from people in my life who've taken that leap of faith that it's scary. And there's no way around that not being scary of leaving one path to explore what we really came here for. But I also realized that money kind of followed that. And while there was these concerns about around paying bills and making rent and just walking that path while being able to live in the material world, that those things started following.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And so having the faith to leap towards what it is that is calling us, it's the scariest thing we can do because it's counter to everything we've been taught. We've been taught to follow specific prescriptive guidelines on how to achieve success, which work. I mean, they work. You will have success. You just may not find fulfillment or joy.
I love that distinction between success and fulfillment and joy because that's exactly kind of how it felt like for me of like, okay, I'm successful on paper. I was successful in my job. I, at that point, was married to my ex-wife. We had a relationship that looked good on paper, but deep inside, I felt really unhappy and I just knew I was not living the life I was supposed to live or that I came here to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is like not what we're raised to think about. Yeah.
And can you actually talk more about that distinction between success and what that feels like as compared to fulfillment and joy?
Yeah. I mean, the art of authenticity, the first decade was really committed to this question. But yeah, we're trained very little to start off with these concepts of success. I mean, you go to school right away, you know, what is this color? Is it blue? Say blue. If you don't say blue, it's like you get pulled out into a room until you say it correctly. And I'm not suggesting we don't need to learn an agreed upon language set, right? Or math skills, but then you get these grades and then, you're told if you don't get them, then you're going to not be able to afford a house. And if you don't have a house, then you can't get, what you want in life. You won't have security. And if you don't have security, and then you want a relationship and you want kids, or maybe you don't, but like there's all of this stuff that basically is this agreed upon trajectory of work really hard, achieve a certain standard of agreed upon outcomes in a work environment, in a school environment. And when you get past a point, you will find happiness, right? When you get, quote, their success, you will then feel good. And it's just not true. I mean, even in the way we speak about our country, we have the right to pursue happiness. But happiness back just even 100 years ago, it didn't mean what we say today. They meant fulfillment. Aristotle, Plato, all these people, they didn't mean pleasure. They meant internal relationship to self. So, anyways, we follow these success trajectories. We get good grades, you get a job, you really, really, really work hard. And it works to get you things and to get you comforts. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, success is fun. It's fun to see what you got in yourself, right? Like test yourself out young, like really go for it. See what you can achieve, what you can get done. If you can build things, if you can do things in the world, there's nothing wrong with that. That's amazing. And the world's a better place for it often, right? We have heat, we have houses, we have like I like modern living, and our life expectancy is so much higher. So there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't bring the internal piece, the internal part. If you're looking for a connection to yourself, for things that bring joy. If you want to actually feel not pleasure, right, but actual satisfaction, contentment, a relationship to yourself, liking yourself, right? Like looking in the mirror and just not self-hating all the time. Those things have nothing to do with success, right? So having a wonderful home, having money in the bank, having a job that does something for the world or not, whatever, even if it's just something that you find fun to do, great, it's amazing. But that internal satisfaction of self is promise. So we think, okay, when I get to a place where I have all this stuff, I have the relationship, I've got, maybe even the kids going, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to feel a certain way. And that feeling is now going to last indefinitely, right? But it's an absolute lie, an absolute lie. And so in comes the midlife crisis, right? People start to have a crisis and they start to think, oh my God, what's wrong? Is it my marriage? Is it my kids? Is it me? Is it my job? And they start dismantling or swapping external things. Let me get a new relationship. Let me shift my job. Maybe I need to hit the gym, right? And these are all midlife crisis moments. Let me go buy something or travel the world. And these external things don't get them there. And it's not until they self reflect and connect to themselves and start to recognize there's this whole other universe happening outside of the mind. And it's nondescript and it's really hard to even think about until you start the process of moving out of the head and into the heart and into the soul and into the energy of oneself and into flow state. But once you do, that's when you find that elusive connected self, which then successes can come and go, but that comfort with oneself, that confidence remains. Yeah.
That is very interesting, and I'm so glad you also hit on the midlife crisis piece because I remember when I was younger and my parents were in their late 30s, 40s, and I would see them and their friends make big life changes, and I would think, oh, midlife crisis, it's so scary. And then I hit that age, and those inner whispers came up that I'm not on the right path. And the last couple of years, it was heavy, like kind of like tearing down an old life. It's hard, and there were like those were some really hard times. But now, and I'm still walking that path. But now I also see that, yeah, what we see as this crisis is also a huge opportunity to get on the right path and to step into a life that is more aligned and that leads to fulfillment and joy. And that is one thing I would say now that I've walked this path for a bit of making those changes that, yeah, the last several years I've cried a lot because there were lots of things, lots of relationships that ended, a whole career that ended. But I've also found moments of deep fulfillment and joy that I did not know were possible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's coming back to self, right? Like kids are already there. We start off connected. We like looking at little kids and puppies and stuff because they're filled with joy. So we start there and we're trained away from it. And it's just returning back to yourself. It's kind of the most boring thing. There's that quote, enlightenment. It's like, before enlightenment, I chopped wood. And after enlightenment, I chopped wood because there's really nothing. It's just really coming back to this internal sense of self and trusting it again and seeing it as there and you, and there's nothing wrong with the mind. It's just not it's not what we've made it to be. It's a great organizer, executor, like it helps me get things done, but it's awful at knowing who I am and what I want.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because you talked about how we see it in children and puppies. And I also realized through this process, I thought life, when I was young, I thought life is about adding things, adding knowledge, adding wisdom, when really it's a lot about kind of removing all the conditioning and everything that is not us. And for me, that's been, I think, one of the most interesting things the last couple years, that so much about it was questioning and removing as compared to adding something to my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean it's like again, there's nothing wrong with doing, achieving, adding, whatever you want to do. But if you don't know how to connect to yourself and that's all that you're doing, it's like you're just walking around in the illusion of life being about the next thing external to you to satisfy the internal. And that process is impossible to keep up with. So you need to shop more, you need to have more drinks, you need to, it's just a constant like pleasure hit to feel anything in life as opposed to learning how to connect in and then doing anything you want. Yeah.
That is so interesting. And I because I also want to ask you a few questions that I ask all of my guests. So before we explore those questions, I also want to ask you, for anyone listening who wants to find that connection with themselves or connect with themselves more deeply, and they don't feel ready yet for an Akashic Records reading, what are some tools that you would recommend, or what is something that you would recommend they could do to start that process of connecting with themselves?
I mean, I coached forever. I don't anymore, but I mean, we think our thoughts are us, right? So we have this conversation that's happening all day long, right? Our minds are just constantly creating thoughts, and those thoughts we believe to be us. And so the first thing is to get out of the mind, meaning shifting your focus. So right now, if you were to just take a moment and think about the sensation of your hand and just bring all of your attention and awareness to your pinky finger, your your index finger, palm, your thumb. There's an incredible amount of information happening in your hand, right? So you can quickly move your attention from your thoughts to another piece of yourself. So similarly, you bring your attention to this place we point to when we say I, right? The sort of center of the chest. There's a place of knowing, the place of nonverbal knowing. Like, so what I tell people is to learn how to connect to that space. I used to teach the system called red, yellow, green, but if you think about something that you love, an activity, a person, don't be complicated. It's not a big guess game, but really something that's absolutely straightforward for you, like a food you love or a place you love to go. And you just know when I do that thing or that person, I know I'm happy. That's an absolute yes for me. So if you connect to that and you imagine, okay, now I'm doing it. I'm eating that chocolate ice cream, or I'm going to that location, or I'm doing that activity, or I'm staring at the person I genuinely love. And you just bring that experience into your body and you hold that and you connect to what does that feel like in the body, right? So I do this all the time, and people will say it's very still, it's very clear. And if I start to poke into you and say, mm, no, that's not true. You don't like that. You actually hate it. That's the worst way to spend time. You're doing what people do. You're laughing, right? Because it's not true. It's not something you have to think about. If somebody tells you you don't like it, you just know that you do, right? It's just true. I just enjoy it, right? So my son, I love him. And if you were to say, no, you don't, it's like, but I do. It's not even, and even, he sucks. And no, he doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something I have to consider way out in my mind. That's the fastest way to start to learn, where is my internal GPS? Where is the part of me that knows what's true for me? And then conversely, what is the thing you loathe doing? Right. And people struggle with this because they're like, no, I shouldn't dislike anything. No, you absolutely can dislike things. It doesn't mean you always have to say no to them. Sometimes I have to do taxes right now. I hate tax. I hate it. I hate it so much. but I have to do it. So it's like, I don't have to lie about it though. I can just say, I absolutely hate it, but I'm going to do it anyways because I'm an adult. But people lie about it. They're unwilling to say, no, I just absolutely hate that. It's dreadful. So think about something that's dreadful. Sunset at the beach with a ton of mosquitoes for me. It's like, no, 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 no. Mosquitoes love me. I'm not doing that, right? If you connect to that, it also has a physical experience. If I were to say, okay, now we're going to just go spend the day, we're only going to do that one activity, taxes for 10 straight hours. I'm like, oh, like my whole body wants to just, it just wants to curl inward. My chest wants to go forward. And so that's what I would say is your absolute no. It's physiologically an experience in your body. So go spend a week or two walking around, and everything you're doing, ask yourself, is it a yes or no? So I color code it for my clients. The yes is a green, the no is a red, and everything in between is whatever, burnt orange or whatever you want to call it. And it builds this muscle of getting out of the head into the body to start experiencing what is true for me without me having to analyze it or think about it or prove it or worry about other people's opinions or fears or anything like that, right? So do something really small. Like, do I really want a cup of water or do I want a cup of coffee? Like red, yellow, green. Is it true, right? After a couple weeks, people get really good at this, and then you can build up to harder things, projects, relationships. The challenge, Andrea, is that people start with the hardest things. Should I leave my partner? Should I change my job? It's like saying I haven't exercised in 25 years, but should I start with a marathon? It's like, no, it's a terrible idea, right? So drop these big questions, go to the little ones. Can you be truthful with yourself about the smallest things, physiologically feeling them in your body? And then allowing yourself to say, yeah, that's true for me. Just start there and see how you feel and how much stress and fear comes up listening to yourself, because that's what's fascinating. After that, you'll start to see all these conversations that kick up, like, well, I shouldn't, or my friends won't approve, or my family, or I can't believe I like that. That's the wrong thing, right? Like, and so that's where I would say start for people who are just learning how to get out of the head.
I love that exercise. I will try that today. I'll start trying that today. That is awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And yeah, I could talk forever about this, but I want to be respectful of your time. So I want to ask you a few questions that I ask all of my guests.
Sure.
And the first question is, can you tell us about a time the kindness of a stranger has made a difference in your life?
Mm. That's a great question. The one that immediately pops to my mind is my partner, the one I was with for all these years. She unfortunately had cancer. She survived, but it was pretty rough. And we were in the hospital and we were walking through the corridor, and she just has a way with people. People always say I'm a people person. She's really a people person. But anyway, she was like, "Hey, God bless," or whatever, to somebody walking through the hospital. And this person was really taken by the exchange enough to write a letter, and not just write this letter, but it was 2 pages, and figured out where she was in the hospital, hand delivered it. Here's somebody who's sick, who has their own issues, but felt like something in that exchange really connected and helped her in some way. Just from the my ex has an incredible vivacious personality, and people are very struck by it, and they feel a lot of energy. They always smile at her. There's just like that kind of person, right? She has that factor that is like intangible. But but it really it meant so much that that person would go out of their way in their own time of need to extend such a loving, thoughtful action. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm also sorry to hear about your ex-partner's health issues.
Thank you. She's all better now. So some years ago, but thank you.
So I'm so glad. And then my other question is, can you tell us about a time you experienced a synchronicity in your life?
Oh my God. I mean, they're constant with me. Well, I'll tell you the one that's just coming to mind. They're constant. I have them constantly. The more I'm in the Akashic realm, they happen daily for me now. I mean, it's just like friends are like, I can't believe you just called. I was just thinking about you like three, four, 5 times a day. It's incredible. But the best one is I'm not somebody who keeps things. I just don't hold on to stuff. So when I was a little girl, my mom gave me these little trinkets when I was about 10. I don't even know why I had them. So I nonetheless, since I was 10, I have this little tiny satchel of trinkets and they come with me from house to house to house. I think I've looked inside once or twice in, I'm 53. So it's like 40 years, right? Anyways, the partner I was talking about, who I was with, my twin flame, she was in Bali and she decided to spontaneously get a tattoo as a symbol of love for me. And she tattooed these two fish, a red and a blue one in a circle right here. And I was like, wow, and it's an interesting choice, right? It's sort of an unusual one. It didn't mean that much. She kept talking about the color. It's like I picked this orange, and I was like, I was touched by it. I was like, wow, it's so nice. But I was also a little like confused, if I'm being honest at the time, right? Like, why that? And like, why this orange? She kept talking about the orange, and I'm like, okay. Well, I decided to take that little satchel out for some reason. I emptied it on my bag and I had this thought. I don't know where the thought came from. It was clearly guided. I'm going to show her these trinkets and then I'm going to get rid of them after 40 years. So I go and like, here I am in the kitchen. I'm like, hey, let me show you these. I mean, it's so random. And I'm holding them up and I'll show it to you because they sit here to remind me of the beauty of the world. But there's this little orange um, and blue.
Wow,
Yeah. So put them the right way so the audience can see. But um, there you go. And
that
they're
is
the same size
amazing.
and they swim in the same direction as the actual tattoo, and they're the exact same color. So they were my
Wow,
grandparents' trinkets that I'd held on to that she spontaneously tattooed and had never seen these before.
that is amazing. Wow, and especially with that burnt orange color, that's not a color you see every day.
No.
That is, thanks for sharing that story. That is amazing.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you so much. Thanks for the amazing conversation. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the Akashic Records reading I did with you, it was so impactful. So it was a huge honor to have you on the show. Really appreciate you taking the time. And before I let you go, can you tell listeners where they can find you?
Of course. I mean, lauraco.com, but also mostly at the Little Soul school. So the Little Soul School, we run classes. Yeah, there's Akashic wisdom, Akashic philosophy. The big thing is, I help people access the records so you can have direct guidance and a connection to your own guides and have that experience. But yeah, that's where I'm mostly hanging out these days.
Thank you again so much.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.